Today I'm going to talk about the numbering system for chords. Some people have referred to it as the Nashville system. If you ever end up playing sessions in Nashville, good luck to you. But if you do, you'll notice that the charts that you see will just have numbers. And the numbering system really goes back quite a ways, and I have had some experience. I remember years ago was touring, and I was pretty young, and these were some pretty high-powered musicians, and they would get together and they'd say things like, okay, this is a 2-5-1 in C, and then it modulates to a 2-5-1 in F, and then a 2-5-1 in A flat, and then back to C, to 1 in C. So, and I had no idea what they were talking about. Sort of felt kind of foolish, but I didn't have enough sense to actually ask them what was going on. I think I was too embarrassed, but so I just started studying, and it's an old, very old system. The Nashville system is slightly different, but the original system used Roman numerals, and small Roman numerals were indicating minor chords. But if it's a system that's indexed off of the major scale, the regular do re mi scale, which we all learned as probably in grade school. We can probably all hum it actually, but so there's 7 tones in that scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the 8th tone is what they call an octave from the first one. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, each of those numbers indexes a chord in that particular key. In this case, we're in the key of C. So the first one is 1, of course, and that's indicates the C chord. The number 1 note of the scale is C, so the number 1 chord is C. And since it's a major chord in this type of harmony that we're discussing, which they call diatonic harmony, but I don't want to get into that. So the first note of the C scale is a C, so the first chord indexed off that would be a C chord. Now the second note of the scale is a D, and in this type of harmony, the 2 chord, or the one based off the second note of the scale, is a minor chord. And so the second note of a C scale is the next letter in the alphabet, D. So the 2 chord would be D minor. And that would be indicated as a small Roman numeral. Okay, so then you go to the 3rd note of the scale. That's an E. That's also indexed. It's also a minor chord in this type of harmony. So your 1 chord would be C. If they said play a 2 chord, that would be a D minor. The 3 chord would be an E minor. If we go to the 4 chord, 2, 3, 4, that's an F. Now that's a major chord in the key of C. So you have C, 2 chord is D minor, 3 chord is E minor, the 4 chord is a major chord, it's F, the 5 chord is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a G, and that's again a major chord. The 6th chord is an A, and that's again a minor chord. Okay, the 7, based off this harmony, would be technically a diminished chord. We don't really see the 7 interval very often in chords, but that's what it would be. You can look that up. And then the 8 is back to 1 again, so you're back to C. And you can, if you listen to these, how these chords fit together, it makes some musical sense. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And here's 5, there's 6, there's 7, there's 8. So they do make sense to the ear as how they fit together. Now, you've probably been around people that have talked about the 1, 1, 4, 5 progression. Those are the 3 most common chords in any key. Now in C, we determined the 1 chord is C. We determined the 4 chord is F, and the 5 chord is G. Now with those 3 chords in the key of C, you could play literally hundreds of thousands of songs. And that's referred to as the 1, 4, and the 5. Now be careful, because some people make the mistake and call that the 1, 3, and 5, but that's actually referring to something else. But when they talk about the most common chords in a key, that's 1, 4, and 5. And let's just say the key of D for an example. In D, the 1 chord is of course D. The 4 chord, if you counted up 4 notes in the scale, that would end up being a G. And if you counted up 5 notes in the scale, that would end up being an A. So you've got G, G, and A. The great, so people refer to these things differently, incorrectly sometimes. The great blues artist Magic Slim, they've very rarely ventured out into other chords in the key. So he just called them the 1, 2, and the 3 chord. So C would be 1, F would be 2, and G would be 3. So they didn't really have, in blues, they didn't really have much use for the other chords of the key. But in songwriting and in determining harmony, those other chords become more important. So that's the numbering system for chords within a key. You might see if you can't figure out what those chords might be in the key of G. Again, you have to know a G scale first, and then you figure out what the notes are. And the 2nd and 3rd intervals, those are all going to be minors. The 1, 4, and the 5 will be major chords. The 6 again is a minor, and the 7 I wouldn't worry about too much, but that's a diminished chord. Okay.